Greetings. Welcome to ITR Live. I'm your host, Chris Hagenow, and we are back here for another action-packed, fun-filled episode of the gold standard in Iowa conservative entertainment here at ITR World Headquarters in Central Iowa. You got John Hendrickson and myself ready to thrill and excite. How are you, John?
I'm doing fine.
Good. We have a lot of ground to cover today. A reminder, folks, as usual on the front end, that please share, like, subscribe, all the other administrative things that podcast hosts are supposed to say that I usually forget to do. But we are on YouTube, we're on Spotify, we're on Apple, we're everywhere. We're everywhere. So, and if we're not, then there's a problem. You need to let me know. All right? Okay, this is, this will have almost no Christmas content in it, but this is the pre-Christmas extravaganza episode, which will mainly, to commemorate Christmas, will get me really fired up and mad about government spending and taxes, and that'll be how we celebrate the. It's not really Festivus, but it's sort of Festivus. Anyway,
airing of grievances.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. That's year round for me. Yeah. I don't need Festivus for that.
I should have brought an aluminum pole for you.
Yes, that would have. Yeah. Okay. The one thing let's just kick things off with our usual feature, which is Hendrickson Trivia. So what do you got for us?
Yeah, well, our question last time had to do with, it was asking about a Civil War battle, and actually we had a winner right away. And the question was, what were the two Civil War winter campaigns in 1862? And they were a rarity. Right. There were two major battles. The answers were Fredericksburg and Stones River or Murfreesboro. And the first winner was one of our listeners, David Kerr. So congratulations to David. And then our own colleague, Dan Steele.
Yeah.
Was another winner. So good. Congratulations to Dan.
Dan had a hint though.
Yeah, that's true.
Fair.
Yeah.
That's not fair. Okay, what do you got for us this time?
And today I actually have a Christmas themed.
Okay. Well, let's go. Let's have
one.
it.
So
is it a Civil War themed one?
No, it's a pop culture one.
Oh,
actually.
wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So straight from the 1920s with the John Hendrickson pop culture reference.
So it actually comes from the movie A Christmas Story, a classic film about Ralphie who wants his Red Ryder BB gun. And so in the intro to the film, the narrator, Gene Shepard, identifies the name of Ralphie's school, and it's a real school, and it was the name of the actual school that Gene Shepard attended. And so what was the name of the school? And to give our listeners a hint, it used to be a name of one of the named streets in Des Moines.
Okay. John, what year was The Christmas Story released?
I don't know.
Let's look that up. We've got this.
That's a good question. I don't know.
That movie was released in 1983.
1983.
So pop culture. I want to note that pop culture, John's pushing the envelope.
Yes.
And actually came all the way up into the early 80s.
Yes.
For his pop culture reference. So what, about 40 years ago?
Yeah.
40, okay, yep. Good. All right. Have at it, folks. So for those of you that are, into your 50s or older, here's your pop culture reference.
That's right.
Okay. Very good. Well, you know what you have to do. All right. This is the time of year, John. There's a lot of... The talk is really accelerating about the coming legislative session. And if you consume any news, you're starting to see these things. We talked about this a bit last time where you're seeing legislative leaders doing different forums, community events, meeting with interest groups. We've met with several legislators. Well, I've done most of it, but here leading up to session, but there's a really high volume of it. And then I think that'll fall off next week. Pick up again after the first of the year. Session starts a little bit late this year, so it's drug out a little bit. But that's happening a lot right now, and communicating the things that are going to come ahead. So I thought we'd touch on a few things. You consume more traditional media that's part of your job here in the office. One of the things that it just keeps coming back over and over, whether it's in the media or speaking to a legislator, is the issue of property taxes is absolutely going to be front and center. That's not the only issue, but is clearly being talked about a lot, both publicly and privately. John, do you have a sense? Obviously, we have our proposal for a hard spending limit. Where do you think this conversation is at right now? Where do you get a sense that we're going?
Right now, I think it's still fairly fluid. You don't see a lot of details emerging. I mean, you see some themes that are coming out. For example, one thing you saw, I believe it was this week. Representative Feenstra talked about TIF reform.
I'm going to get to that.
The governor has talked about TIF reform, and some others have also talked about it. So that's been a theme. There's
tax increment financing used as incentives to build things locally, and we just so if TIF makes you mad, stay tuned because we're going to get there.
Yes.
Go ahead.
The other thing is a lot of discussion on potential freezes for property tax for seniors, and then also just some broad statements about needing property tax relief for everybody in general and small businesses. So, but there hasn't been, at least I haven't seen anybody roll out sort of a plan yet. But those are just some of the key themes that have been. Have come out in most of the media articles, at least.
I don't think anyone's had a plan yet. And if you can hear the whistling, I don't know if you can.
I heard that,
It's really windy out today, and the building is not happy about it. But anyway, I don't think anyone's actually come up with a plan yet. The governor has circled on some themes. House Republicans are. Senate Republicans had the bill from last year. I believe they're coming back with that. All of those things are aimed at reducing over time, bending the curve down on Iowa's property tax burden. That's fair to say, right? Okay. We will see what actually gets traction on all that, and I genuinely don't know yet. We are going to continue to advocate for hard revenue limitations, that they can only collect so much more every year in an attempt at 2% is our number, and trying to get ahead on that. I'm glad you brought up the senior citizen freeze thing. And this is an idea that's been around for a long time. It certainly predates, well, it's probably been around for decades, to be fair. Predates my time starting here at Iowans for Tax Relief. And I understand it is politically popular. We live in an aging state. There are folks on maybe limited incomes that are still in their home. I get the whole idea of a fixed income. I mean, like, we're all sort of on a fixed income in a sense, but I get the politics might look good on that, but it is still picking one class of taxpayers over another. And it is still saying you deserve more of a break than somebody else. And, I've joked on here at times, like, I want to freeze too, and I do want to freeze. But I think there's a real, even though the politics might look good and a legislator might want to land on someone's doorstep that's in their 70s on the campaign trail and say, yeah, look what we did for you, and great. I'm just not convinced that this is good tax policy. Am I wrong?
No, you're not. I think you're absolutely right. And just go back to the fairness issue. And so when you look at, definitely there's seniors that are on fixed incomes, but there's also individuals, whether they're single or in families that are on fixed incomes that are also struggling with property taxes. And we heard from a legislator at one of our events whose son was struggling to buy a home.
Yeah.
And so there's young people that are trying to afford a home.
Yeah.
And I had a conversation this week with someone from Iowa who's a senior citizen that said, we have a lot of benefits in this state. For example, no tax on retirement.
That's right.
And so there are benefits. And I'm not just so I mean, there's already some advantages within the tax code.
And there is an existing senior property tax exemption in place that was actually increased recently the last time we did a property tax bill.
Yes, yeah.
But the idea of freezing it, I mean, one, we can get into the broader tax philosophy of creating bumps in the road and how that works and whether it's, but I guess there's the fundamental point I want to make. somebody's got to pay the tax. And if you say that someone over here doesn't have to pay or pays less, well, then everybody else has to pay more or gets less of the benefit of a cut, or however you want to phrase that. But that's when we talk about not picking winners and losers, that's what it means. And so I'm not going to pretend to know exactly how those politics play out. I suppose if we wanted to dig into, go do some extra polling on that question, we could. But here's the thing: if you want to deliver a benefit for senior citizens, if you're a legislature, then just give them a 2% hard spending cap and say, look what we did for your property taxes. Then you can have the same conversation with them that you are with the couple in their late 20s trying to afford the home they just moved into or buy it. Like it cuts across the board.
You're
so
absolutely right.
That's what I think. I just wanted to talk a little bit more depth about that, because if there are, I understand legislative sausage making and all those things, but this benefit needs to be directed at all Iowa property taxpayers. And a freeze really is going to create, I think, some really unintended consequences, especially in some of our small rural communities where the population really is older. And I think you're going to hear from some of those cities especially lobby against that, whereas maybe in a Waukee with a younger population may not cut the same way. But
no, I think that's a very good point on that.
Okay. Another interesting thing that I saw, new Senate Majority Leader Mike Clemish was at Westside Conservatives this week.
Yes, yeah.
Popular stop on the political circuit at the Machine Shed restaurant here in Urbandale, and often you'll get the media show up. So, the other issue that I think is going to drive a lot of attention this year, or certainly for legislators, is the carbon capture pipeline again. And Leader Clemish spoke to this directly, and I thought it was interesting because he is going to author a bill himself and manage that, which is fairly unique for leaders to do that. Often they are managing the process, and certainly they're in the nitty-gritty details, but to actually take that and manage that bill and put it forward, and it'll be different, but I think it shows just how important the issue is that he's taken it on heads up. And, he said, I think in one article, he's going to pick that up kind of where Senator Mike Booslow left off last year, trying to find some sort of resolution on this issue. I don't want to get into pipeline politics necessarily, but did you see this? Like, I think it's kudos to him for wanting to take this on. It will be, it's going to be a very difficult issue, and especially for a new leader, but Godspeed, because this is an issue that the legislature needs to find some resolution on.
Absolutely,
and get behind them so that they can work on other things. And I'm not being dismissive. I'm someone that cares deeply about private property rights and eminent domain use, but we need a resolution to this issue.
Yeah, absolutely.
So anyway, that's interesting as well. Before we get to our TIF conversation, John, did you see where the city of Ankeny is going to put the local option sales tax back on the ballot?
Yes. I saw that this morning,
And I didn't realize the number was this few, but there are only 5 communities left in Iowa that do not have the 1 cent local option sales tax.
I didn't realize it was that.
That's what the article said, at least. So I'm taking the Des Moines Register's word for it. It's Iowa's paper of record.
That's right.
But it's gone up over and over again. And look, I'd absolutely vote no if I lived there. And I don't know that 1 cent makes a huge difference. If I was going to make a major purchase at Costco, I can drive to Ankeny and save 1% on that purchase. It's usually not worth it. But I don't know. I'm a no if I live in Ankeny. I struggle to think they really need the money as fast as that community is growing, but they also have a lot of stuff they like spending money on.
Yes.
But anyway, any other thoughts on the local option sales tax?
Well, I agree with your take, and I would oppose it because a lot of times you see this, and one of the justifications for this is, we need this, so half of it goes to property tax relief.
They're required by law to say that.
Yeah. And then what one person told me this morning, because we were having a conversation about this issue, not necessarily about Ankeny, but just about it in general, they said, well, it's not necessarily to lower your property tax, it's to keep it from going even higher. So
one of these days, John, we're going to completely shift the podcast.
Yeah.
From me being mild-mannered public policy professional who occasionally gets fired up about public policy to it just being me, and the entire theme is going to be just yelling about how absurd everything is all the time, straight out, like you see these people. I'll turn in to the public policy version of a shock jock and just scream at everything. But that's stupid.
Yeah.
That makes me mad. Here's the thing. Okay, so now let's go, John, because what's going on here? And I've not dug into the Ankeny city budget. It may be hard times in Ankeny, and they just got to have it because they've got to go build another something, okay? I don't know what, but I don't know. I've been to Ankeny recently. It's pretty nice. But those dollars are all fungible. And for those of you that like, okay, fine, they're sending 50% to property tax relief, but you're going to pay it over here on the other end. We all know that, right? And I guess my point is, here is another example of cities are always going to find another way to go get more money. We've seen it over and over the last year on utility franchise fees. Oh, we need some more money. Where can we go get it? And they usually dress it up in alternative revenue. No, you need to stop raising taxes and stop spending. So it's raising a utility franchise fee from 1% to 5% on a utility bill just because it's more money, not that this actually makes for reasonable taxation or what they're going to spend it on has anything to do with utilities. They just want more money. They have things they want to do, and they want more money.
Yeah.
Is that an oversimplification of things?
No.
And I don't want to pick on Ankeny.
No.
Like I said, I haven't dug into their things, and kudos to them. I really should for making it this long. Ankeny is a well-run city. It really is. And they've made it a long time without having to raise this. But I also know multiple citizens of Ankeny that will be vehemently opposed to this proposal.
No, I think you're absolutely right. And one thing this whole fall, I think one of the kind of to go off on supporting what you just said is I think what Governor Reynolds said kind of this fall in some of her property tax town halls she held across the state is the culture of local government has to change.
Yeah.
And to a certain extent, it's gotten too big, and we've gotten to the point where you can't even question the spending, and that has to change. And in a sense, and she was exactly right when she said people have, if they want lower property taxes, they're going to have to expect differences from their government, and in a sense, less from the government. But also, the government, local governments are not, they cannot continue to just look at their property taxpayers as an endless ATM.
You know what? I'm glad you said that about the questioning their spending. If I have to be the bad guy and you, because I'm being critical, I almost feel like it's our role in this system to point it out. It's why sometimes I have the disclaimer, like it might be reason. I don't know. I don't want to be the policeman of every local government decision in the state of Iowa, but I do feel like it is our responsibility to point out that they're spending too much money globally. And Iowa property taxpayers, we know that over 2/3 of them instinctively know that they're spending too much money. And it's our job to point it out. If that makes us the bad guys, then fine. But nobody else is doing it, so we're going to do it.
That's right.
And it's not our job to go through and figure out what's good and what's bad. That's up for the individual taxpayers in those districts. But if all we do is raise the question, great. Then we've done our job.
Yeah.
So that's a good segue, John. Another thing that was interesting that you and I talked about in pre-production this morning, John, Congressman Randy Feenstra, and you alluded to this at the top of the program, talked about potentially working on TIF reform this year. When he was asked about, I think he was talking about property tax broadly. And let's take a step back. And I was joking with somebody else this morning, like, I don't think most Iowans are really talking about TIF. And if you're out there on the campaign trail talking about TIF, you've probably lost them. I don't know that that's necessarily true. But what is TIF? And what are we talking about here? Just so we can kind of set in a simple way, what is this?
Yeah, and I I confess I'm probably not the right person to ask about this. But
unless you want to go downstairs and get our fearless leader. I think we're going to have to figure.
It's tax increment financing, as you said, but basically what it is a program that was designed by for cities and counties that was initially used to help them develop what they called blighted areas that would normally not be able to develop on their own. And so it was basically an incentive program that would sort of give a shot in an arm to these areas to kind of run down,
maybe environmental challenge. So you need to clean it up. Yeah, okay.
Normally that you would not see something that would take off on its own. And so it'd just be a tool.
Wasn't at least as originally intended, not to be used to move somebody's corporate headquarters a mile away.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And so and over time it's just been that definition has sort of you can drive a Mack truck through it. I mean, and so it's been expanded and now it's been used for just broad economic development. For example, the I'm drawing a blank, but the Coralville
that
mall.
The Coralville. There's huge.
There's
Jordan Creek Mall.
Yeah.
I don't know that the Coralville example is necessarily the mall, but the Iowa River Landing project.
Yes. Yeah.
Is now there's a long story, but it's been about 10 years now.
Yeah.
Which, if you've been through, there's a really neat area. And that was an economic or an environmental cleanup site.
10 years ago is pretty recent for me.
I know. This is my pop culture reference, but and so they used TIF to clean it up. Okay, I can get there. It worked. What they did do though is that went really far, and they leveraged themselves, and they were actually using it to pull tenants out of the Coral Ridge Mall and move it over most malls in the state of Iowa don't really need any other obstacles placed in front of them because a lot of them are hurting, except for Jordan Creek. But, so anyway, that's a big one. Obviously, Jordan Creek Mall. There's a lot of TIF projects around the state in varying degrees. What we have seen, backing up, you would see an environmental cleanup done with that, or to maybe raise some buildings, or build some roads. That was what Jordan Creek Mall was. They built the infrastructure out and all the roads, and possibly maybe you need a new something else out there, utilities, whatever it is. It's become used primarily for economic development incentives. Is what at least what we see is okay. And the way the structure works, just so we're clear, is after we clean this up, the property's going to be worth more. And so there's a series of future tax payments, and we're going to accelerate those and use them in year one in order to pay for it. So we finance that. And if done right, it can be a useful tool. The problem is there are almost no guardrails on it. Iowa's TIF law is one of the most permissive in the country, and it is used for any number of things. And look, we've seen this. We've talked about failed projects all over the state, but I don't think it was ever intended to take a piece of viable land and give an incentive to some developer just to give them a little boost to get the project done. A lot of these projects would be done anyway. There's TIF being used all over the place out here in the west suburbs, in some of the most valuable commercial real estate in the state of Iowa. For what? You mean to tell me that these buildings aren't going to be built one way or the other, that we now have to incentivize them? Because what it comes down to is often just padding the bottom line on that balance sheet when they go to the bank. It's like, well, hey, I'm going to put in a few million here, but I'm going to go to my friends over here in the city council and get some TIF money, and that's it. Because it comes back to too often these local governments just want to build stuff. So anyway, okay, that's TIF. We can rant on that all day.
Well, the other thing too is they've got it in their head that this is the only way to grow your economy, is to subsidize it, and they think that's the only way you can do it.
You need government, taxpayer-funded incentives to grow. We need growth, and I've started on this path, John. But you've heard me like growth. It's the only thing we care about. We got to grow. We got to build something. We got to grow. I understand. Some amount of growth is important. You want an economy that's moving forward, but growth to me might mean something different to you, and it certainly means something different to a lot of local government officials in the state of Iowa. But yeah, anyway, so we don't know exactly what Congressman Feenstra had in mind, but he wants to take a look at it.
Yes, yeah. Yep.
The governor has mentioned that she's interested in taking a look.
Yep.
Understandably, as if on cue, our cities and counties folks go to battle stations. Don't take away TIF. It's all we have. It's the only tool we can have to hand out our incentives. What are you going to do if we can't hand out incentives, right? You're seeing the call to arms, but nobody's talking about getting rid of TIF.
No, it's limitations. I mean,
one of the things they can do, John, is a perpetual TIF.
Yeah.
There's no term on it.
Yeah.
They can just keep borrowing money from future years as long as they want. There's no term on it. Well, really? That seems odd. So maybe putting a limit on that. Maybe we can only use it for public infrastructure. Maybe you can't use it for economic development incentives. Is that outrageous to suggest that?
No, not at all.
Anyway.
No, and I don't know. I would say that you will have better economic growth by getting your property tax burden down than by relying on all these incentives.
Again, something we talked about.
Yeah.
How about we just make it more attractive for everyone?
That's right, yeah.
How about we make this a low-tax state where everyone has an increased ability to get ahead and thrive? Let's just do that. And we tell the story. I mean, especially on income taxes. Look how far we've come.
Yes.
So we are doing that. We have to continue to make the point that, it's time for property taxes and local governments to come along for the big win that we're as part of here in the state, right?
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to wrap things up here, John, with a little sports talk. You ready for sports talk?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I saw a news article. Now, I understand you are a rabid Minnesota Vikings fan, right?
Well, I guess so.
But just go with it, John.
Right,
I know you couldn't care less.
Yeah.
The Chicago Bears have hinted they may want to move to Gary, Indiana.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So they would become I don't know if they'd rename themselves the Gary Bears or something. They seems odd, right?
Yeah.
I mean, Chicago Bears, Soldier Field seems like kind of a thing. But now they're talking about going to. But you know why would they want to relocate there, right?
They're threatening with probably wanting a bigger subsidy.
They're not getting the subsidies they want out of the city of Chicago and the state of Illinois, and now it's a battle with Governor Pritzker, who apparently, I didn't know this, they're still on the hook for, what is it, like $500 million from the last remodel of Soldier Field that they still haven't paid off yet? I don't know. I didn't read the whole story. But, and then so really, it's just forum shopping. You see who pay you off. I've seen a lot of conversation about this is in the Kansas City area.
Yes,
where
I did.
The Kansas City Royals are shopping around to see who wants to help pay for their new stadium. The Kansas City Chiefs have talked about moving across to Kansas City, Kansas. But we saw this. It's not NFL teams or Major League Baseball. We talked about this last time, but the soccer deal, the soccer stadium.
Yes, yeah.
That was an ongoing effort to get the taxpayers to pay for part of the new stadium. Same thing here in town. And I guess what I'm left thinking is, let's not pretend that this is unique to sports. That this is because we see it because it makes for an interesting front page headlines, or your favorite sports team is thinking about, or your least favorite sport, whoever's thinking about moving. Businesses do this all day, every day. It just doesn't always make it to the front page. Altoona just announced $40 million in incentives for a Wisconsin company come and build in their area. And it's tied in with a bunch of incentives and TIF and everything. And I'm sure the Altoona folks would probably try and tell you, well, we're not in this for any money. It's all TIF. It's all, except I guarantee you that is paying for part of what they're behind on the Facebook project that they were complaining about not too long ago. It's all just, good money after bad, so to speak. But when you see these articles, John, about big-time sports teams, forum shopping, you see who can give them the best deal. These developers, these businesses are doing it all day long.
Yes.
Seeing who will cut them the best deal.
Yeah.
And then they take it to the media like, the Altoona folks, like, look what we did. We have growth. We've got a company coming to town. And they tell you about all the money they had to give to them. But I think it's time for us to start having a little bit more of a critical eye to what these communities are giving away in order to get these deals? And is it worth it for the citizens that are already there? And, the point is keeping made. So when's the payoff? Is it in 20 years when the debt's paid? How many people that live in Altoona today are still going to be there in 20 years? Mm-hmm. How many of them are going to be alive in 20 years?
Yes, yeah.
But that's the thing. How does that benefit a single person that lives in the city of Altoona today?
Yeah, that's and there's again, I think there needs to be definitely more scrutiny on these things, and it goes back to this larger question of locals just continue to say that this is how we have to grow our economy, is that we just have to do this, and then going back to the professional sports, and then, I can't remember if it was the Twins or the Vikings, but they did the same thing. They threatened to leave. It might have been both.
Yeah.
If they didn't get their new ballpark or stadium, and of course with a major league team, it's a much more emotional than a business, because people take that very seriously. They see that as a part of the identity of the state.
Yep.
They don't want to lose that, and so the Bears going to Indiana would be kind of seen as a serious defeat for Illinois. So it's a good leverage to get their deal.
Look. People love their sports team. It's fine, So, I agree with that. However, here's the other thing: you pay attention to a lot of conversation about things, but you talk to folks about, well, what are the ways that maybe the state's wasting money or saving money? Have you ever heard somebody say, "How about the football coach's salary?" You ever heard that one?
I have.
Because you can go online to state salary database and look how much Kirk Ferentz or
he's usually,
I guess Matt Campbell used to make or whatever, and it's a lot of money.
Yeah.
It's paid for by athletic department revenue, and that offends people's sensibilities. But not backing up the truck full of cash straight off of property tax dollars for your local economic development incentive, that's fine. That's growth.
Yeah.
Like, that seems to lack a certain consistency, that we're offended by football coaching salaries, but not just, hey, you know what, this project was only going to have an ROI of, 5%. We better make sure it's 7%, so here's some tax dollars. Really?
Well, it's just, that it's all people see is that wonderful ribbon cutting, and then, you know
what, makes the city folks look good.
Yeah.
But I don't know, whatever. Okay.
And then there's a blame game, and so people wonder why their property tax bill is high, and so it's it's not the city's fault, it's the county's fault. Well, it's not our fault. It's the school district, or it's the state, or it's someone else's fault.
Most of your property tax money goes to your schools, John.
Yeah,
you know that, right?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, fine. Then spend whatever you want. Yeah, here, John, we've got a clever graph here of a dollar bill that's chopped up, and the majority of that's going to schools. We're just over here on this 20%, so nothing to see here.
Yeah,
just leave us alone with this chunk of the dollar bill, and we'll spend whatever we want. Yeah. We know best.
It's like the guy in Wizard of Oz. Pay no attention. The man behind the curtain.
That's like when we were told by the Dallas County folks that it's okay that they raise taxes because the cities and the schools went down. I feel so much better. Thanks, guys. My goodness. All right. So, are you ready for a Merry Christmas? I feel better. I'm ready for a Merry Christmas.
Yeah.
It's if we really thought ahead, we could have cooked up this whole like Grinch sort of vibe or something, and I could have Good. All right. That's what I think we've covered it, John.
Yeah.
We're gonna wrap this up, but anyway. Merry Christmas.
Yeah, Merry Christmas.
And
to our listeners as well.
Yep, to all of them. Be safe wherever you go. Take a moment, enjoy just the time with family, and remember what it is that we're actually celebrating, and which is the birth of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. So anyway, with that having been said, thank you for joining us. Don't forget to like and subscribe again. Don't forget to tell your friends, and we will see you next time on ITR Live.